Well, what about Warrington? I mean, Gareth Widdop called into the England squad. His coach says playing best rugby of his career, rumoured to be on the radar of Canberra to replace George Williams, who's rumoured to be replacing him at Warrington.
Blake Austin's off to Leeds.
Well, only if he's free. Apparently, if Warrington pay for everything for the remainder of this year,
Oh, right. Excellent.
because he's already in their salary cap, then he becomes effectively a free player, and I'm
A bit of a Chris Radlinski.
reliably informed that a club in West Yorkshire might be interested on that basis.
Oh, Wakefield, brilliant. How's he going to get past Mason Leno? Can't get in the team.
But yeah, Joe Westerman. Is it 7 years since his last England call up? Back in the squad, 32 years of age, the opposite to the Jason Gary.
And he's got a very. Does this count as an international? Does this count as a test?
So are they bringing
Well,
over?
I don't think there'll be caps.
Well, this is it. And
Because they're not all coming over, are they?
that's what I'm saying. If you're not coming over and if this is a World Cup warm up, you'd want to. I don't know if it's because of the good old COVID. I've not mentioned it a couple of times tonight. The COVID, the Rona. You know, you want to put a squad out that's going to compete. So you'd want Elliot Whitehead, and you'd want, but obviously they're not. So
No, but
what about
But Shaun Wane's going to also have the pressure of Darryl Bowles on the phone, Christian Wolf's on the phone. Oh no, I haven't got your number, Chris Chester. We'll put Joe Weston in. Because Wakefield, no one gives a toss about Wakefield.
I do.
So Joe Weston, well I do, but as well.
Alright, so the
Joe
biggest
Weston, he
question.
can have a game because Wakefield are...
The only player we know who was playing for
He deserves a cap.
the All-Stars is the man they've named as captain.
England's Jackson Hastings.
England's own.
England's, yeah.
So we're already
From
talking about England versus England.
Yeah.
Does that work? Is that a saleable concept? Or what happens if Jackson Hastings has a man of the match performance, outplays...
It could be the new Rangy Chase.
Does Shaun Wane then have to pick him?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because Shaun he came, into position and made it very clear that he wanted born and bred and everything else. He said that himself, which meant you knew straight away that Jackson was out on his butt, as with Blake was. But has he been made captain as a bit of a? Does it make it more
What's
interesting?
kind of sell the game?
Is it a media ply? Is it? But then if he's eligible to play for England in a World Cup,
and he's playing quite well at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But then he goes out a week on Friday and absolutely nails it. I think, regardless of what your thoughts and opinions are, if he's eligible to play for your squad and he is playing out of his skin, you'd be stupid not to take him on board, wouldn't you? But that is that an ego thing? Does that boil down to because he's made this big statement as he's come into position that he wants X, Y, and Z, he's not picked him, he's got his halves.
I'm going clickbait, so we'll title this video former, because you admitted it, former England international says Shaun Wane is stupid.
Oh, I didn't quite say that, did I?
Don't matter. Clickbait. Don't matter.
I wouldn't say stupid. I'd say...
Is in denial.
Unwise.
I'd say he is very patriotic.
No. Overly patriotic.
Overly patriotic. And he's going to have some tough decisions to make. Oh, to be a coach with options.
Which he's got, which is good.
Yeah, which is what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, there won't be any caps or for this because it's an England World Cup trial. But you see, that's another reason why you're Darryl Powell and you get a phone call saying we need Jesse Senilafeo to play in a game that has no benefit for Jesse Senilafeo.
His leg's fallen off. Bye.
Yeah.
You're not going to be,
That's what I said to Francis Cummins last week, wasn't it? If you've got Wembley coming up, you're a player. I know he said he wants to play all the time. But if you're the coach of Francis Cummins and you're saying, we've got Wembley coming up, I know England want you to play in this game against the famous people, but, Wembley's coming up.
Yeah, but that's it. So Jesse Senilafeo gets a call up, he plays, snaps his ankle. Touch wood, that doesn't happen. You never want it to happen. That's a significant person out of the squad. So, and in rugby league, you never play to think about injury. You never play with the what if because you have to.
Oh, of course.
If you did, we'd all be out. But then that is a serious consideration when you have what you ever said, third of the way through the season, and there's I don't want to say
A month away
unnecessary.
from
It's not
Wembley.
unnecessary.
But there's an even more serious consideration because of the schedule you've got.
Yeah.
You're looking at a Castleford team who've got a huge amount of games to play and a Wembley final to concentrate on, and a huge amount of games to play after that
Where
Wembley
is your focus?
final.
Yeah, where's your focus?
Why would you really? Even if that player can't play in one league game, because if he can't play for the All Stars, he can't play that weekend. You would say I'd rather have him under my control than let him play in what you would hope would be a very high intensity game and possibly get injured for absolutely no good reason for us or him.
But that's the thing, it's a high intensity game, which is what you want to play, and you don't get to see the mix of players, so for Shaun, he needs to see how his players are going to play together, and it's going to be a high intensity game. Like, I can't say the same necessarily for England women. I'd like to think that Wales will come out, but I don't know how beneficial it will be for England women, apart from having a team run with opposition. But for the England men, there will be some genuine competition there. So it's seeing that squad in the best possible position before a World Cup without being able to fly and do anything. So you want to have anybody that's available to play it, just so you can see how.
If we'd have been sensible, it's easy to say, sat here in number 1 Ivory Tower, Fantasy Island. We would have cleared this weekend of all of the fixtures. So the Super League would have gone down by 1 round, and we would have taken this England team to play away in France. So the French Elite 1 final would have been, say, on Saturday, and England would have played a test match in France with the Arthur Morgs and the Toulouse players all available, flown in on the day of the game like teams are doing. Shaun Wane would have not only got an opposition that is improving, and it would have helped. And I know they're playing them in the World Cup, so yeah, all right, it's not ideal, but it's far enough away to say.
Wait till play Huddersfield every pre-season.
You get the camp mentality because he has them for a few days before. They get on a plane together, they land together.
Do you know 2016 we flew out in the morning and played that day and then flew back as an England
But
double
playing away in France is a test. It always has been. Even when they've been pants coming over here and getting beaten by 80 at home, and they would have got a really good crowd if they'd have played that with 5,000 people allowed in at the Gilbert Brutus. Would have been slightly an intimidating atmosphere. What a great weekend for rugby league that would have been. And now we've got the worst diluted option of both.
The ridiculous thing with the women's international is there will be the criticism afterwards, because we all know what's going to happen.
We anticipate, assume.
Yeah.
But it's good for Wales because they're getting their
The Welsh girls are made up of some ex-union players.
It's only going to be their second game, so I'm not saying they're no good or anything, but everyone expects England, who've been training through lockdown, who have the best players in the competition, should win very comfortably. And I'll put it that way. But, let's hope they don't. Let's hope it's a real good game. But what gets me is, and I read this on social media during the Cup final, we should not bother because the Australians and the New Zealanders are so much better than us. Which is a ridiculous thing to say because the men are anyway, so we may as well just give up. England women probably won't win the World Cup.
Well, it depends who. I mean, COVID is not going to go away. It depends
Australia
who.
and New Zealand signed to say they're coming.
I think they have, but what they may have is some of their players. I think all of the players will be given the option because each individual. In the New Zealand Rugby League has said they are going to go to all of their players and say, "We know it's a World Cup. We'd love you to play, but the option is entirely yours with quarantine, with family commitments, with the fact that you go into a country that clearly has probably a rate of infection that is higher than you've got. If you didn't want to go, that would not be held against you. So I think they'll come, but they may not come with all of the players that they would like to come with.
Yeah. But for the women's team, it's slightly different because I know that the Australian women's team are the ones under contract. But if it was the other way around and we were flying to Australia, I don't have the financial capabilities to isolate for 10 days, then fly out, do my 3-4 weeks, come back and then isolate for 10 days. I pushed it enough when I went out to the World Cup in 17, and that was without isolation, and that was with landing on the Sunday and playing on the Thursday. So for the women's side, are the same for the men? Is it end of season and therefore I mean, Australia, New Zealand, you're looking at win bonuses or whatever. So potentially they're going to get the money anyway. But it's a lot to ask, isn't it? Either side of your... Because if you have to isolate for 10 days, does that mean that Australia... Can they isolate together and therefore carry on training? How does the isolation work?
But it also means when you get back, you don't see your family for an extra 10 days. So you've got 3 weeks where you're away, which becomes a month. So, you know, you're sacrificing the hell out of it.
But can teams isolate together for 10 days prior to flying? So they could train? Or does it have to be...
Again, I don't think anybody knows at the moment.
Yeah.
That's
so there's lots of like grey areas, isn't there, about whether the men's and the women's could...
And the women needed an opponent because, as you've said right at the beginning, you can't just train.
Yeah.
You need to play. Well, which other opponents are there in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment?
France.
But at what level?
But can we travel in and out of France anyway?
Yeah, but it's the same as the men, isn't it? It's a competitive...
You may as well play Wales and give them the leg up because they do. I mean, I think there were...
I'm all for Wales playing anyway, so it doesn't matter to me.
I think there were a couple of matches played in Wales this weekend.
Yeah.
It's the first time Welsh women's teams have played, so it will give a real boost. I mean, what you don't want is it's such a blowout that people in Wales start going, well, let's not play Wales.
But Wales have to start somewhere, don't
they? But they have to, yeah. So I think the imperative for them to play Wales here, and whoever might be on commentary or summarising for that game, whoever that could be, would need to make the case that you might be watching something here that looks very one-sided, but actually there's real benefit for both parts. I'm sure whoever was the summariser would make that.
That was the important thing about the cup final was you and Andrew pointing out they all got proper jobs. They're all students. They're not full-time professionals.
Whereas I think the men's is different, and that if they had gone to France, that is a genuine test match. Caps are awarded. Players would feel more comfortable. Their club's about releasing their players for something worthwhile. They're playing an opposition to get a bit of a look at who they might be playing in a World Cup. Some of the new French players that are, talked about Arthur Moore. You'd be suddenly, you're on your tip sheet. You're going, don't let him run from dummy half. He's quite good. And I just think it would have been a real boost for the international game. What we've got coming up is the most horrible mix and match.
Rugby league unbeaten.